Let's queer up social justice. Oh, here we go. Let me sit up straight.
Yeah, sit up straight for Let's go. Come correct.
Retired gay teachers sentenced to 5 years for threatening judge over Don't Say Gay ruling. A retired gay teacher, Stephen Thorne, was sentenced to 5 years in prison this week for threatening a Trump-appointed judge over her ruling on Florida's Don't Say Gay law. The sentence, issued by U.S. District Judge William Jung in Tampa, is double what prosecutors had recommended. Thorne, 66, pleaded guilty in May to making a threat after leaving obscenity-filled voicemails for U.S. District Judge Wendy Berger. Judge Berger had rejected a legal challenge to Governor Ron DeSantis' controversial law that restricts discussions of sexual orientation and gender identity in Florida classrooms. In the voicemails, Thorne criticized the judge, claiming she was basically giving a green light for LGBTQ children to be treated as second-class citizens and bullied. He added, "Let's see how you would like it if somebody endangered your children in school or your grandchildren in school." Before sentencing, Thorne submitted a letter of apology expressing regret for any distress caused to the judge and her family. He mentioned that his son is gay, explaining that this may have contributed to his emotional response. Despite Thorne's apology, Judge Jung was firm in his decision, sentencing Thorne to the maximum penalty. Prosecutors highlighted the growing number of threats against federal judges, which have more than doubled in the last 3 years, signaling a troubling trend. Let me tell you, this story has me like crazy because first, people have to know who their judges are. Our elections are coming up. Please rely on organizations like SAVE and Equality Florida, Human Rights Commission, organizations that are pro-equality, because it's hard to keep on top of them all. But you have to understand what a judge is in your community and how much power they have in your community. And things have not been going our way. And when a law like Don't Say Gay comes out and a judge refuses to even address it, right? People take that personally. If he's 66 and he has a gay son, he probably went through a lot. You know, to make sure that his son was safe. Exactly. And so you can imagine an emotional response coming from someone trying to protect their children, also reliving trauma, right? And I understand that threatening a judge is obviously not a good thing, right? But I think that the legal system has been attacking our community for so many years now. People are fed up and they really don't understand. Who knows what a circuit court judge is, right? The average person has no clue what these things are.
I was like, huh? When I was
right. These people just know that these things keep coming down and it keeps harming us. And so I think to give someone 5 years, I looked up what other crimes
offenders,
get 5 years. And it's like assault with like an armed weapon. It's like really horrific, physically, like, come on. The guy was upset. He left some email. You can send him to a diversion program. You can send him to a training.
Was that quote the threat? Just how would you feel if your child?
Yeah, that's probably it. It didn't feel too risky to me.
That doesn't feel threatening. I mean,
it said obscenity laced, and it's probably my guess would be it's the judges going, hey, this is a way, like making an example of it.
Exactly, because
going, you know what, I'm going to give it and show you what kind of authority I have over you.
Because Paul,
to stop the next person, but that's the wrong way to do it.
You hit the nail on the head, because I just make a quick look up. Not only was the judge a Trump appointee, by the way, there's a federal judge, so they were appointed for life by president. The judge who sentenced him for double the minimum punishment was also a judge appointee.
Exactly.
I can guess what his opinion on LGBTQ people are, or people who are allies to LGBTQ people. I mean, January 6th defendants get sentenced for less.
Correct.
And
for less. People do a lot of things and get less than 5 years.
5 years in federal, this is retaliation.
It's retaliation.
You criticize Don't Say Gay, I'm going to throw you in jail for the maximum of time.
And that's the problem. And that's why we have to be aware, and we have to really be on top of, I have in political circles, I have this whole thing that no judge should be appointed, because judges get paid by tax dollars.
Yep.
And they're responsible for our community. communities.
Correct.
And we should know who they are.
Correct.
And we should be able to vote them out if they're not doing things that we believe are okay.
Right.
They shouldn't be appointed for a political purpose and then attack community. We are equal citizens in the
can't,
United
like,
States,
they can't
no
be-
matter their political position, right?
Exactly.
We're all like equal American citizens.
Yeah, they can't
You don't
be like,
get to
we're the
attack.
people sometimes.
You know,
Like,
right,
yeah, like,
right.
Yeah, you know, they, no,
On the
yeah.
flip side, though, I just want to point out that the reason that judges are appointed, especially even in the federal system or in some state system, is that it's supposedly to avoid having the judge basically have to run on politics. For example, DAs are often elected, especially in this in Florida.
Right.
So they try, they know that their opponents will label them as soft on crime if they don't go for maximum prosecution of everything. That allows the justice system to be abused and biased against certain
But
minorities.
it's being abused and a biased against it. But it's being abused and
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
people are
weaponized in power.
absolutely, and they are absolutely using their political purpose and picking out certain people and putting them in charge of certain courts so that they can harm American citizens. This should never, ever, ever be allowed.
It just
that these
goes back
people
to
can
what
do
we've
this.
been speaking
Never.
about, feeling safe. You could tie it even back to holding
Yeah.
hands. This 66-year-old man comes from a generation where I'm sure was not easy to be
Not
gay.
at all. That's
within
my
that
generation.
So I know that my mother had a fear when I came out.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that this father has that same fear. To express that fear to a person of power and authority
Yeah.
that you would think would be on your side, and to completely see it shit
Yeah.
in your face makes you feel unsafe
I had
for
a
you and your child, and he probably just
Yeah.
acted on that emotion. For
Well,
me, it's like it just all circles back to our safety.
Yeah,
know?
there's a gentleman his age range who said to me in doing political interviews, said, I don't like the use of this word queer, because in his generation, this was a horrible word, queer. Because I don't understand why you're using it. He said, do you know how many times I went to school and fought the whole school system and fought my whole neighborhood to stop calling my son queer, just so that he could get through a school day and not get beat up. He's like, I don't want to hear that word. So when I read this, I thought of him, and I thought of like a father who loves their son.
Yeah.
Who's like, oh my God, you're coming after my kid again. And they're reacting. That doesn't deserve 5 years. I looked to see if there was an appeal or anything put in
Nothing.
yet. I have not been able to find
probably not
anything.
yet.
I'm sure we'll follow it.
Based off of those two quotes, it makes no sense because I don't
No,
see a
there's
threat.
nothing
I see
threatening.
somebody trying to align themselves and say, "Look,
No,
we're
yeah.
similar on this part of the story." So that's just mind blowing to me. You can, it's freedom of speech, right? And if you're a public servant with a phone number for civilians to call in and air their grievances, then that's kind of part of the shtick, right?
Was
Right.
the voicemail the smoking gun in this? That was
I
the
would guess.
I
I said
think
multiple
so, yeah.
voicemails with poor language,
Obscenity,
obscenities.
yeah.
But I mean, we had
5 years
we had
for
a
that.
president
Wow. That's-
who didn't know how to keep his mouth
Yeah.
on camera. So
Or where to keep his hands.
I mean, I think if people were held accountable for anything they've left on a voicemail in a fit of passion, everybody be in prison at this point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or a text
I'd be locked up
message
for
for that
life.
matter. Yeah.
I'd be in for life,
Don't
honey.
get started with the people
Solitary
who wrote this,
confinement.
who wrote these laws. But